international investors?
Good afternoon. Yes. The mining team that we have at VTB on the advisory side does both the restructuring, the traditional mergers and acquisitions, and particularly in connection with the market in Russia, the IPO capital markets business. The team, which is based in Moscow and London, has also a very strong connection with what is more of an integrated offering across the resources space, because we have the research team to support a lot of the issuers. Also, as you pointed out, with a strong affiliation with a lot of the global international investors who want to look at the mining companies that are there, as well as a strong commodities business which sits underneath that platform to provide support for both the institutional client base as well as the corporate client base.
Lack of finance and sources of finance is one of the stumbling blocks for developing mineral exploration projects in Russia. What are your views on this problem?
There's been growing interest in investing in Russia in the last couple of years, and so I'd split the difference a little bit between some of the big projects which have been supported both at a corporate level and also at a government level with your institutional client base, who I think have had a more difficult time in the capital markets over the last 2 years, and I think have been more cautious coming into all projects, not just mining projects. That has certainly been the case over the last 12 months, but I think we're beginning to see a change in that, and I think renewed interest in looking at particularly some of the bigger Russian mining companies.
Alex, could you comment on the view, which is shared by many people, that IPO market is effectively dead? What are the alternative sources of finance which are available to the Russian mining companies?
The IPO market, as I said, yes, it has been very quiet, and it has been very quiet for 12 or 18 months. I think you're beginning to see some of that opening up. I recognize that it hasn't been all in the mining sector, but there have been a couple of recent successful new issues coming out of the Russian market. And I think that's probably an indication of people beginning to rotate from an institutional shareholder perspective back into some of the emerging market investments. That's something that I think we as a team think we're going to see more of over the next 12 to 18 months. I think on where some of the other funds are coming from, you've seen a number of the big private investors, the Middle East, the Far East in particular, becoming significant investors, showing significant interest in the Russian investment space. Probably the best example as a sort of near-term example of that was CIC, the Chinese sovereign wealth fund, investing in Uralkali through exchangeable bonds a couple of weeks ago. And those kind of multi-billion-dollar investments, I think, show some of the dynamic behind the scenes of alternative sources of finance.
The Russian Gold Mining Union is proposing to create a specialized mining exchange platform which provide Russian capital to finance the small and mid-sized exploration companies. Similar exchange has been successfully operating in Canada and in the UK. Does this idea have a merit, and what needs to be done to make it work?
Yes, I mean, very well known, the TXX in Canada and the AIM market in London were specifically designed to try and help, let's call it, growing companies. I think the proposal that's been put forward, as you suggested, is interesting, but probably not just for the mining companies. I think to be successful, it needs to be something which is applicable to all sorts of businesses. Yes, there's a specialist content that's required in terms of giving investors information on the mining side, but I think what the TXS, what AIM in London in particular had done is it had changed the listing requirements so that you could have slightly less developed companies, you had slightly less requirement for historical reporting, you had slightly easier criteria with respect to doing transactions. And so I think in order to make it a success, it needs to be done quite strongly in conjunction with RTS MISEC, so that the rule framework that sits within it would be similar to that which had been created in the UK and Canada, which made the rules for smaller developing companies easier, of which the miners are a particular beneficiary, not just focused on mining alone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I wish you a good conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.